I have been asked by several people how I do the blending for the grind going into the tang of the blade. And so here's a quick video to explain that, and hopefully it will help out. This side has already been roughed in just to give you an idea of where we're going. And this side is how I start the procedure just with a standard grind. The tape here is to give me a place to end. The reason that this grind has not gone up to the tape is because ultimately this blade is going to be half hollow, and I'm going to be continuing this out with a smaller diameter wheel. So I start by just grinding it normal, although I don't finish the top of the blade here. And I finish the edge down to 220 grit and about 1/1000th of an inch thick. While we're doing this, we actually avoid the edge. We may get a few 60 grit scratches at the edge, but there's still some material there to play with. So you start off by just grinding it like you would a normal razor. This is a 6-inch wheel on a 6/8 razor. And as I said, it's already been ground to 220 grit. So the primary thing is that we'll start off putting it up against the wheel just like normal, and I'll pull it away from the wheel without rocking it back and forth, and use this edge of the wheel then to start chopping away. It's what's left of this heel area back here, and I'll just move back and move back, and then ultimately what you do is you lay it in your initial grind and you pull it this way, trying not to rock it back and forth, using this corner and edge of the wheel with the belt hanging slightly over to blend everything in. So what I'll do is I'll stop and start the belt sander at various spots and talk a little bit, because I think the whining of the controller for the belt sander and the noise of the belt sander will make it hard to talk. So anyways, we'll get started and show you how it goes. So just check. Hang over the edge of the wheel just a little bit, and you put it in your old grind for reference. Then you come up and you start chopping away. Now normally I'll be spraying a lot of water on the belt, but you want to keep everything cool as you start chopping away. And you can see how it's starting to cut into it a little bit. I think I need to get a microphone. So you can see how it's starting to blend in, but if you look closely, and the light's bright, but there's a divot here where this grind blends into this, and that's where you'll start pulling it this way in to blend that together. But for most of the metal removal, I just bring it here and I chop it in, being very careful not to bump the spine like I did, but not to rock it or anything else. So back, you just pull it this way, that gives you your reference, and then use the corner of the wheel to start to blend that in. So over and then chop, and over and chop. Oh, I forgot to mention too, at this point the tang is completely finished, the tang is completely tapered. You don't want to do any more work on your tang before you do this. So the tang's actually at 800 grit and ready to be polished. So here and then over, and you see how it's starting to curve in. And then once you get close to where you're going to finish up, you start here and just pull it across and lift it away as you get closer, so this doesn't go too far. And then you can also start here once everything is pretty well formed and adjust this line along the top of the blade. So you'll bring it over, put it in, and then just rock and blend that top line. The thing to watch out for is putting facets as you come up here. That's why it's important to come this way and blend it back. So since this razor is going to end up being half hollow, and I've got another one I'm working on that's going to be full hollow, I won't mess with this much past this. You can see I've still got a little gap between my tape marker, and then I'll come in initially with a 3-inch wheel and follow that with a 1.5 or a 2-inch wheel to fully hollow that out, using the same technique to go back and blend it in. Areas you want to be careful for here, and shut this off. You see, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't take that long. You want to be very careful, especially down in here, so that you don't have a little jump. But I'll blend that in with 220 grit. So where I would go from here, if it was just going to be a quarter hollow razor, I'd follow this all with 220 grit, then finish my bevel setting on my edge and narrowing of the bevel on the edge. Since it's going to be ground out deeper, what I'll do is I'll finish the edge area right up to 800 grit. And then from here, go to a 3-inch wheel, then a 1.5 or 2-inch wheel to hollow it out more. But from, about here down will be completely finished before I do that. And then I'm just moving away material. So that's really all there is to it. It's not rocket surgery. It just takes a little practice and a little care. So that's it. I hope it helps. And don't hesitate to ask any questions in the comments.